Hey guys, good afternoon. Welcome to the Atlas Leadership Academy podcast, where our goal is to offer world-class leadership to influence worldwide change. I'm William King, and I am a Maxwell Leadership Facilitator and a coach. We're joined here today with Shishana Hogg.
Welcome, Shishana. We are so happy that you joined us today. And Shishana is the CEO of Mogul Real Estate here in Southern California. And before we get too ahead, I'm Marianne Owen. I am the Executive Vice President of Atlas Leadership Academy, and I'm so happy you guys decided to join us today. So we are going to dive in with Shishana and talk about the 5 levels of communication.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, Shishana, the first level of communication that John Maxwell talks about in his book is the requirement level, where it talks about people have to listen. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about a time where someone had to listen to you? And do you think your message was well received because they had to listen?
Well, every Tuesday we have a team meeting. We have about 30 agents there, so that's something that they have to listen. I mean, if they choose to. So in that sense, I believe that that's probably a situation where they have to listen, and some people are probably more engaged. And I think it's a matter of what the topic is and how it relates to them, because people are thinking of themselves in most cases, right? So they're seeing it through their lens.
Yes.
And so it's super important to remember who your audience is when you're delivering and what the message is. And you may not capture everybody, but if you can reach as many people as possible, that's always the goal.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, it's important to note that if we constantly rely on a position to get people to listen, that's often referred to as the lowest level of communication. Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the skills yourself as a leader want to develop that make people want to listen?
That's a great question. I think that the most important thing, like I was saying, is meeting people where they're at and making sure it's relatable to them, because everyone's seeing things through their eyes. So always keeping everybody engaged. Like, I like to do things where it's not just a TED Talk, listen to Shishana's opinion about everything. Instead, more interactive. That way people can kind of timestamp the information and gain the most value.
Understood. So you do things more in a group setting so people can you can level with everybody, right?
Absolutely. So regardless of where you're at, if you've closed, I'm in real estate, so I'm always related to real estate, but whether they've closed, 100 transactions or 1 transaction, making sure it's more interactive so everybody is growing at the level that they're growing at.
Nice.
Understood. Sounds good. Hey, thanks for sharing that. And developing skills amongst everyone inside of your team, that's honestly what's going to make you more successful with inside of your industry as well. Going on to the next point, Marianne, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, so the next point is the relationship level, and you touched on that a little bit as far as like being relatable and then reaching people where they are, and that gets people engaged where they listen to you because they want to, and that is really important. And so, let's see, do you know when, can you feel the shift when people want to listen, going from having to listen, and now there's like, oh no, I'm engaged?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you can feel the entire shift in the room once people get engaged. And there's certain tricks that you can do as far as public speaking goes, and really kind of raising the volume before you start talking if there's music playing in the background. And then right when you come on, you lower it, right, to get people more engaged. Calling people by their first name. There's something about hearing your first name. I know when I hear, so a lot of people call me Shish, right? That's my nickname. But when I hear Shishana, I'm tuned in, right? Yeah. And even when you're calling someone else's name out in the room, people are focused ooh, does this have to do with me, right? Yeah. And relationships to me are the most important thing. So again, anytime we do a Tuesday team meeting, I'm thinking, what's my point, right? How prepared can I be, and how can I make this the most effective to where people are really understanding the message versus me just talking because I want to hear myself talk.
Right.
Understood. John Maxwell said it best himself. He said that people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care.
I think that just gave me goosebumps. But I think that's so true, because when people will receive a message from you when they know it's genuine, right? When they know it comes from the heart, and when someone has your best interest at heart, you know that what they're saying is for you. So I think that's huge.
Understood. So you're pretty much stating is that what makes you a better communicator is the relationship you develop with that person.
100%.
Yes.
You ever hear somebody talk that you could care less about. You're checked out, you're scrolling through your phone. And I know, like, when I see, agents are really busy, right, in real estate, and they're constantly checking their phone. But when I see agents doing this in like a meeting, like, I know that's my responsibility to make it more engaging versus more general.
Makes sense. Understood. Thanks for sharing that information. Going on to the third point, the remarkable level. It says people like to listen because you're good. What do you think about that?
I think that's great. I think they like to listen because you're good. I think that's amazing. Who wants to listen to somebody who's boring and unrelatable and doesn't have your focused interest involved?
Right.
I'm fortunate enough to work with really amazing people, and like the step before, they know that when I'm delivering something, that it's coming from a place of love, it's coming from a place of collaboration, and I have the track record to prove that the steps that I've maybe not mastered, but I've developed over time are based on real live situations, to where they can take that and implement it and not have to go through all the lessons that I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think makes a great communicator?
For me, I need someone who's entertaining. I need somebody with a personality. I can't be bored. I've heard a lot of people speak, and for me, it's, regardless of what the message is, I want it to speak to me, but I also want it to be animated, and I want it to be relatable. So for me, it's not just like entertainment, funny, ha ha ha, but something that where the tempo is good and it's practice and it's polished, versus just kind of, winging it is fun. I love winging it and like improv. That's great. But again, that kind of levels out with the entertainment factor as well.
Right. Understood. And what are some of the things that you would typically tell your population that will make them become better communicators? Like, what is the biggest advice you can tell your population? If you do this one thing, you'll be better at communication.
Being genuine.
Understood.
Not trying to mimic someone else because you think it's great, because people will see right through that, and then all of a sudden the ears shut off. Right? And the energy's low. And I'll tell you what, it's very hard to be a speaker when the room energy is low. Right?
Yes.
So,
Hard to get 'em back.
yeah, it's hard. Once you lose them, you could be out.
Oh, yeah.
You better call their first name because they're not listening from there.
And maybe a back.
Yes, exactly. I think that it's so important to be genuine, and then show up.
Right.
When you show up to do something, remember that you're taking somebody's time to do it.
Right.
And that's so important because they're not going to get that time back. So you want to add value in everyone's life, especially when you're in a position where you can be a good communicator or be in a speaking position.
Understood.
I love that. Show up.
Show up.
Authentic self.
Yes,
I love
absolutely.
I'm guessing that's what makes you stand out as a communicator.
I
You're
mean,
genuine
I'm
self.
pretty darn genuine.
You're pretty animated. I love it.
Animated.
Yeah, and I saw you speak a few times before around the area because you are a community leader, and you have done a great job capturing the crowd's attention.
Yeah.
And people really look like they wanted to listen to you.
Thank you.
So being a good communicator is all about understanding that it's a marathon and not necessarily a sprint. You have to take time to develop those little small skills that will make you that much better.
Yeah, and it's not about, if you're just starting out with speaking or maybe teaching something, I will say that people get better at their job by teaching others. And you may not show up to that first teaching or speaking event, in your best, but if you're always constantly evaluating and reading the room, you're going to get better and better and better and better.
Right. Sounds good. Oftentimes people become good at something and they stop. But it's important to know that once you get good at communication, you can't stop.
You
You
never
have to
stop.
always be hungry.
Keep
to learn.
going.
Exactly.
Yes.
Marianne, what are some of the things that people can do to continue to expand upon their communication style and become better speakers or better communicators?
Oh, well, practical things that they can do, like there is a club called Toastmasters, so they can take those classes and then, be given the opportunity to speak and then practice. But the biggest thing that they should do is to just do it. Like just get out there and do it, because each time you do it, you'll get better and you'll learn and you'll build your confidence, and then you'll get appropriate feedback, take what resonates, apply it, and then just keep going. There's lots of great books and reads and podcasts, so there's tons of information out there. And if all else fails, practice in front of your friends and family.
Right.
Oh,
If this is what you really want to do, because they will tell you the truth.
Totally.
Yeah, but they will do it in love. So those are a lot of great things.
Didn't that happen to you one time before in your past?
It did, actually. So
I want to hear about this.
Yes. So starting out in my leadership journey, I really wanted to get up and start speaking in front of people and saying more in meetings, because I would talk to my boss, and we'd have our quarterly get-togethers, and I was like, giving her all of my ideas about the company. And she's like, why aren't you saying this in meetings? And I'm like, well, I'm a little shy, and I want to get better at that, but I don't know how. And she's like, this is what I want you to do. You go sign up for this, get these books, and then, we're going to check back in a few months. So I went to Toastmasters, and I went to 2 meetings, and I never got up and spoke. But the last meeting I went to, what the leader said is like, the best way to do it is just to do it. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll just do it then. So I went to my meetings and then I just started speaking up. And then it was very well received. Some of it was not so well received. Of course, I had some growing and maturing and some polishing to do, because, I would just say it. I'm like, if I don't just say it the way it's in my brain, then I'm just never going to say it. So getting past the fear of not saying it was helpful, but then I needed to polish it so I didn't hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, you always got to know your audience.
Yes, you got to know your audience. And it's like, I didn't mean it that way. I'm just trying to say it. I'm just trying to speak up. So just do it is my advice, and you will get better and it will come to you,
Yeah.
So.
What about the fear of failure? People are often afraid of getting in front of a crowd and being nervous and failing or saying the wrong thing. So what would you tell someone that says, well, Shishana, I'm scared. I don't want to get in front of that crowd of people and speak. What would you say about fear?
I would say be afraid, be scared. It's okay. Just do it anyways. If you think about it and you just take that scared feeling, right? And you think about like goosebumps and, like me, I'm red right now, sweating, like all those things that happen when you're scared, shakiness, your voice shakes, your mouth gets dry. It's the same exact reaction you have when you're excited. If you've ever been excited for anything, you get red, you get sweaty, you stumble on your words because you're so passionate. So the only difference between being scared and being excited is what you tell yourself upstairs is your mindset. So be scared, be afraid, go for it, because you're never going to get better and people want to hear your message. It's crazy how many people are so receptive to listen to other people, but they won't say it because they're scared. And then the moment you do, you're like this beautiful woman that's got this great message and great delivery. Imagine if you just held that inside, you'd always be looking at the next person like, damn, that could be me.
Right.
Dang,
Right.
sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that was another thing for me too. It's like, what is your goal? Like, is it to be seen or is it to help people?
Yeah.
And my thing was, I always want to help people. I always want to help solve problems.
Yeah.
So if I've got the solution, it is selfish of me to hold it back.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can't be rude. You gotta share your gifts.
Exactly. We're here to help.
Yes.
Both good talking points. Now, the fourth level of communication that John Maxwell talks about in the 16 undeniable laws of communication is the reason level. And this is by far one of my favorite ones. It says, people seek to listen because you add value to their lives. Wow, that's very impactful. Another great author that I read a lot is Simon Sinek. He stated that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Absolutely.
So you have to start with your why.
Yes.
So, Shishana, why do you want to be a great communicator?
I believe that it's super important to be a great communicator because, like you, I want to help everybody be successful. There's nothing that has to do with me about it. I don't know what it is. I was born with it. It's this deep down. I talk about it all the time. It's in my gut where it's like, if I can help somebody develop their skill set and not have to go through, still go through the ups and downs, you're going to naturally, but if I can help you accelerate, and there's something about the joy of watching people achieve their goals that's way better than even you achieving your goals.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, if people don't understand where to start, I would suggest always starting with your why. Right, Marianne, what is your why?
Absolutely. Well, my why is to help people. My why is to solve problems. And helping people get past certain hurdles that maybe I've gotten past, or maybe I have the tools to help them get past. So that is my why in everything that I do.
Understood. And John Maxwell's book that he just wrote, and by the way, guys, this book was just released this week, so if you have not gotten a copy, I would recommend that you absolutely go out and purchase yourself a copy, and it's absolutely a great read.
Yeah.
Now, one thing he said, to try to find your why, the first thing you could do is find yourself. And when it comes to finding yourself, you got to really try to stop looking like others. Stop trying to be like others. Just be yourself.
I'm like, preach. Yes. Yes.
And when you find yourself, the next principle is knowing yourself. And we're talking about how to find your why. So find yourself and you get to know yourself. When you know yourself, you need to examine yourself and ask yourself challenging questions and answer them honestly.
Yes.
Right? Marianne, what is the next principle?
The next one is to be yourself. And what that means is to accept who you are, fully embrace who you are, flaws and all, Whatever you can change it. Whatever you can't change, embrace it.
Yeah.
Own it.
Own it.
After you find yourself, you get a chance to know yourself, and you can be yourself, then you can improve yourself.
Yeah.
And once you improve yourself, you're developing skills through trials and error.
Yes.
You're trying things out, understanding what works, understanding what doesn't work. But I think trial and error is so important in today's, business industry. But a lot of times we stop doing those trial and errors because we're afraid.
I see this all the time in real estate. All the time. It's like when people are putting themselves over the process, it doesn't work out. Right?
You got to get out of your own way.
You got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Zip it. And if, like, for me, I have a little light switch. It's this, and it's not like the new light switch where you push a button and all of a sudden all the lights come on. It's actually like the flip of the switch, right? And anytime I catch myself thinking any type of way, I can easily, or if something bad comes up, right? Real estate's not easy, especially dealing with a bunch of agents in their transactions. If something is off, you just flip that switch, you take yourself out of the equation, and then at night or in the morning, that's when I do it, and I literally do it every day, is I evaluate. How did I act in this situation? Did I like that? Did I not like that? What was the result? Not being hard on myself, but literally those types of conversations. I'm super grateful for this lesson. Here's what I learned from it, and here's how I can improve on it, and here's what I want to share with other people so that they might resonate with that to help them save time, energy, and get out of their own way.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the next principle. You want to go ahead?
Oh,
I did want to say something real quick. I was like, that's amazing to where you take an evaluation of yourself, but you don't beat yourself up about it.
Never.
Yeah.
You just, you accept it, but you don't accept the result.
Right.
Right? You just own it, because ownership is huge.
Yes.
It is.
Like
You own it, but you don't sit there, I made a mistake, I'm going to take ownership, and no, that's how stuff happens over and over again.
That's right.
You own it, it happened, it's done, and here's how it's not going to happen again.
Correct.
And get better and better and better.
Yep.
Very passionate about that.
And that was the next principle. Get over yourself.
Get over yourself.
Stop worrying about what people think.
Here, I have a message for everybody.
Please.
People are not thinking about you.
They're not.
They're thinking about themselves. I mean, I'm thinking about you, we're thinking about you, but in 99% of the time when something comes up, they're over here in their head thinking about themselves.
Absolutely.
You're thinking about yourself, so just stop. Stop. Just get out of your own head, get out of your own way, because when you do, amazing things can happen, but you have to trust the process.
Yes. So true.
Yeah.
And the last principle is so you can give yourself.
Give yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Think about others and how you can help them.
Yeah.
And this is how we develop our why. We find ourselves to know ourselves so we can be ourselves, so we can improve ourselves, so we can get over ourselves, so that we can give ourselves to others.
And wouldn't it be amazing if we were all just born with the ability to just own it, right? Yes. We could skip all of these different hurdles.
That'd be great.
Hashtag own it.
Yeah. Own it. Own it.
Hashtag own it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Everyone's trying to act like other people, and then we have social media, which is just definitely
yes.
Oh, well, I got to do it this way or that way. When you do it someone else's way, and it's not coming from you inside, it's different, right? And it's people want to hear it from you, from your standpoint. And oftentimes what I find is that people's biggest life obstacles is what draws in other people. So use that as your gift versus using it as your crutch.
Right.
You're saying everything we were talking about, because in the next and last level of the communication is the return level. People are eager to listen because of who you are. And that's everything you were just talking about. And this determines your level of credibility, who you are, what you have accomplished within inside of your life, because your most effective message is the one you absolutely live.
And I don't think that's about numbers. I mean, some people may base you off of numbers, transactions, blah, 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 blah. But really, it's more than that. It's who you are as a person and how they receive the message that you're there to provide versus, I just closed 3 million homes last month. People, you're going to lose people by that.
Absolutely.
They want to hear about the lives you're changing,
Absolutely.
the clients that you're helping, how that changed someone's life for the better, not your volume. I mean, your volume's cool, but if that's all you're dancing around about, what happens when your volume's gone?
Absolutely.
Right. So how important do you think it is to have a deep connection with your message?
So important. I think you have to be connected. You have to be connected because it's coming from you. And when people can learn how to internalize what they're talking about and have that type of passion, it's like a magnet. And a magnet for good stuff, not the bad stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because as we know, good communicators know themselves.
Yeah.
They connect with themselves, and they also accept themselves. Now, to determine if you are a good communicator, if you want to send out a message, there's 3 questions that John Maxwell said you should ask yourself. Number 1, is this something that I know? I think that's an important question to ask, because if you don't know what you're talking about, you probably shouldn't be talking about it.
It makes it very difficult to talk.
Very quickly. They don't know what they're talking about.
The next thing, is this something that resonates with me? How do I feel about the message that I'm giving? Because once again, as you stated, if you're not genuine, it's going to show really quick.
Absolutely.
And the last question is this something that I do? Because we're now connecting with our own message.
Yes.
And we're living the life of the message that we're absolutely putting out to the crowd.
Yeah.
And you want to look for a yes in all these messages, in all these questions, sorry.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important. I was thinking about it on the way over here, that being, like, we have social media, right?
Yes.
Being an influencer is so much different than being a leader.
Yeah.
Because there's no attachment to the person and not so much the result, but the outcome. Being an influencer, you can influence somebody to wear, this dress or act this way and do whatever. But when you're a leader, you have to live that life. You have to be in that life in order to really have the honor of sharing your message with people. So I think there's a huge difference that a lot of people don't really dissect.
Right.
And that's kind of what I was talking about, like transactions, followers. It's not about that. It's how many people you can connect with on a deep level to share whatever you need to share so that they can receive your message to make their life better.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you. And now, Mary Ann, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Just to add on to that point, I was thinking about the parallels between, social media influencers and leadership. Leaders grow people where social media grows followers, products, things that are, kind of frivolous if you think about it in the long run. But leadership is about the people, which is something that someone told me a long time ago. It's like, if you're getting into this, just know it is not about you. It is not about how much money you can make. It is about people.
Absolutely.
And you have to be very sure that's where your focus is. That's what your why is before you get into this.
Yeah, I love that.
And one thing I've always said personally as a natural born leader is you have to lead with the intent of not getting a return.
Always.
Yeah.
Always, always, always. Always. I'm going to say always again. Always.
Well, Shishana, I really do want to thank you for coming out today and talking about the 5 levels of communication. Now, as we wrap up, we're talking about the 5 levels of communication in chapter 1 of John Maxwell's book, The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And once again, if you have not purchased this book to read it, it is an absolute game changer, and it would definitely evolve yourself as a leader. Now, if you'd like to know more about our offerings, you can definitely find us on Instagram or YouTube at Atlas Leadership Academy. And go ahead and click on our bio. And then also a copy of the show notes will be in the bio as well. So then you can download them and take them back to your own organizations and study them and help yourself improve someone else's life. Until next time, we are going to shoot this every single Friday and be on the lookout for the next episode as we're going to continue to take a dive into the 16 undeniable laws of communication next week. Talk to you soon.
Bye.